Okay, so today we're going to talk about the best baseball leg stretches. Stay tuned. Max Wardell over at athletics.com. We're going to go right into the video with these different stretches for lower body for baseball player. The first one is going to be an adductor medial hamstring stretch. Find this restricted a lot. I'm going to try to keep my back flat as possible or straight as possible, chest up, and then I'm going to actually use something that's sturdy here that can pull me forward if possible. So I'm pulling into the stretch. Don't worry about your toes being pointed up. They can point that way if they want. Really going to feel the stretch through the inside of your leg. From there, I can try to push my heels into the ground for 5 seconds to 10 seconds, relax, go a little farther. Or I can try to pull my feet together without turning in. So I can try to push my heels in and into the ground and together. Relax, go a little farther. Try not to do this too much. Really work on the inside of the leg. From there, I can go into another hamstring stretch right here on the ground where I'm going to be in a lunge, foot forward, toe can point or be up. I'm in a lunge stance, chest is flat. I'm going to lean forward. I can avoid this, do a little bit of flexion in my thoracic spine if I need balance, or I can use some exterior or external thing. I can work on the stability of the exercise a little bit by doing this. Trying to face my hips straight forward as much as possible to work on that lateral hamstring, which we didn't target with the last stretch. From there, we want to work on the hip flexors. So I'm already down here on the ground. You know, I might use a pad under my knee optimally, but for the purpose of the video, I don't truly need one. I want to work on that iliopsoas. So what I do is I do a posterior pelvic tilt, which is basically tucking your butt under. From there, I tuck my butt under and I try to lean forward into it a little bit. You'll feel it right away if you do it properly. A lot of people, they like to lean all the way forward like that. Do a lot of lumbar extension. Flex your lumbar spine with a posterior pelvic tilt and then go into it. It doesn't take much excursion to truly stretch that muscle. The stretch of the muscle is the most important thing, not how far you get. That's why it doesn't matter how far you round your chest and the other ones. It matters how much hip flexion you get with the straight knee because you're stretching the hamstring. So those 3 lower body stretches that are phenomenal for baseball players. From there, we also like to sometimes incorporate a little external rotation stretch. So not always is this targeted for baseball players, but I see it limited a lot. Sometimes it's actually the piriformis. So we can do this 2 ways, which I will show you. The first way is just to bring it over this way and push this leg or this knee down. Shouldn't feel any pinching in the hip. Should feel a stretch actually kind of on the front side of the hip, right in here. It's called your tensor fasciae lata or TFL. From there I can incorporate the muscle contractions pushing up this way or pushing my knee that way with the muscles on my leg. Activating into the stretch or against the stretch into my hand. So I can do that way, or I can do a 90-90, which is really popular. Going 90 degrees, trying to turn your pelvis to face straight through this leg. Sitting up nice and tall if you have to. You can actually decompress your lumbar spine or thoracic spine a little bit by pressing up. Not always necessary. Just trying to stretch through your piriformis stretch, a little bit into external rotation, a little bit more into hip flexion. So that's a really good one. And then hip internal rotation, a nice little passive stretch that we do because it's a lot of capsule. You don't need as much muscle contraction, although you can do it. Try to make sure, sometimes I like a little bit something here to keep my body from going that way. Try to make sure your hips aren't falling that much, but they're kind of staying on the ground. Both your PSIS, or the bones that protrude on the back of your hip bones back there. Trying to maintain contact. and just letting this leg, let that knee fall to the ground. Internal rotation is limited in a lot of people. You got to make sure you're not feeling a pinch, drop my microphone there, not feeling a pinch in the hip, because that may be indicative of some impingement or some other factor that's contributing to it in terms of how the joint sits, some restrictions that won't be necessarily addressed with these stretches. And we've actually done a video on some self things, but it'd be important to get evaluated by a therapist, an orthopedic therapist, or physical medicine rehab doctor, or even an orthopedic surgeon, just to make sure that nothing's going on there. But if you stuck with us through this video, hope you've gained something. These are some phenomenal stretches that you can use. Very easy to do. You can see I did them all right here in the same spot, with something to hold on to, a floor, something to balance with, and you can go through all these stretches and get phenomenal benefits for your baseball career and for the rest of your life, just by increasing some of the length of the hamstrings, the TFL, the piriformis, and then also differentiating between the adductors, medial hamstring, and the lateral hamstring. Could be very and is very beneficial for throwing athletes. So throw a like on this video, and we'll see you at the next one.